Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show.
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years.
So get ready! I mean, get ready! Are you ready for some football?
You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. A weekly podcast about sports since 2011. With a focus on football. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and here with me, as always, is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
It's good to be here. We're full in this summer swing, but we're closing out pretty much on our predictions here.
Yeah, we're doing our NFL preview. We're almost finalizing the NFL preview. We're going to be done talking all the teams after tonight because we're going over the 8 teams from the East divisions in the AFC and NFC. We always save it for last because obviously our favorite teams or our most hated teams are all in these divisions, and we want to talk about them genuinely. Like, we always give what are actually thinking. We try to hold back the bias, at least on the teams that we hate, by and large.
I feel like when we do take it, though, like we at least we own it. We say, like, this is my bias coming through, or this is my fandom coming through. Like,
now, you tend to have a positive bias for the Eagles, whereas I tend to have a negative bias towards my Dolphins.
That has changed just because of the last few years. Like, once, it was blind optimism for a little bit there.
But obviously, we also have a hatred bias for a few rivals. Mine, more recently, it's honestly probably been about. I don't like the Bills, but I can at least understand that they're good. And it was for 20 years, it was the Patriots, but now they're terrible. Like, remember, the Patriots are really bad. Like, the Patriots are not a good football team. I just want to make sure everyone remembers that from last year. I don't know if that's going to hold true this year. We'll find out what our thoughts are really soon. But, like, I hate the Jets so much. And, like, Aaron Rodgers going there last year and all the media talk this year, like, talking about the Jets this evening is, I don't know, maybe it'll be fun. It'll probably just be really annoying because that's everything associated with the Jets is just super annoying.
I'll have fun.
You'll have fun talking about that.
Right.
Just like I'll have fun talking about the Commanders, the Giants.
When we flip the script to the NFC.
And the Cowboys, clearly.
Completely, it'll be the other way around.
We are going to try to play NCAA Football 14, our Dynasty Year 5. Coach Joey Raffoff and our FAU Owls. We're in the Conference USA Championship against North Texas. 6-6 are the Eagles, whereas our FAU Owls, I believe we're 9-3. We didn't have a great year, but if we win this, we're conference champs and should go to a decent bowl game. We are in the top 25 again. I believe we had dropped out for probably the first time since year 1 or 2 of this thing that we started over 2 years ago. You know, we're in the 5th season over the course of. Well, we just started this in 2021 or 2022.
Dude, I am so bad.
I don't remember.
I rely on you to remember all of those things.
I did just say to Justin, though, we're going to play our bowl game then the next time we have this show, which is actually like over a month away or about a month away by date. It'll be July 14th, I believe.
Really close, though.
July 14th, so we're really close. That will be episode 406 of this show. Now, I'm supposed to have a Bulldog Hour next weekend. Justin's not here for that, so I'm trying to find a replacement to host a Bulldog Hour episode, and then we'll be off for 2 weeks because of vacations. You know, we're in the middle of the summer and things like that happen. But anyways, when we come back for episode 406 on July 14th, Justin and I will play in our bowl game for NCAA Football 14, and then just 2 days later, if you pre-order the deluxe version, the new college football game will be out. Finally, 11 years. 11 years we waited for this. I don't know if we're completely saying goodbye to NCAA Football 14, but when College Football 25 drops, it's going to be hard to go back to a game that we love to play. It's a great game.
I feel like it would not be a good sign for my feelings about the new game if I go back to playing 14.
Sure. So, but the main discussion topic tonight, while we play one game on NCAA Football 14, is going to be the AFC East followed by the NFC East. And then on that same episode I just talked about in a month, 406 on July 14th, we will do our recap. We'll talk about the playoffs, pick our wildcard teams, and then go over the Super Bowl predictions. And then that will be the last show on this main show, the Joe Mays and J-Raff show, then until sometime probably in November, which is crazy because high school football season in Pennsylvania, it feels weird to say is right around the corner on June 16th, but by the time we finish this next show in July and we have a couple-week break again, it'll be the end of July into August, and we'll be really rocking and rolling with the Bulldog Hour. Yeah,
it's going to go fast.
All right, so, Justin, we're receiving, so I'm going to head up there.
Okay.
I'm going to pull up that camera, head up there to play or start our game. I guess I need to make sure that everything's working before I do that. But we're going to start in the AFC East. I'm going to let you start with your number 4 team in the AFC East.
Okay, so this is a tough one for me. When I look at it, again, let me rephrase that. The division as a whole is tough for me to kind of figure out where I'm going to place all these teams. I think I have a general idea of where I'm going to put all of them, but the easiest spot for me among the 4 is who I think is going to be last place, and I think that's going to be the Patriots. So I'm picking the Patriots to finish in last place. For the longest time, and we mentioned this a lot in our preview shows, or at least I do, of teams or coaches or organizations or players even who are in the until you show me different, right. We're going to go, and that can be good or bad. I think last week we mentioned that a little bit with the Browns and things like that. But we've also mentioned it with the Chiefs and at one time, not necessarily because of our fandom, but with the Packers in the in the NFC North for so long. So when we look at things like this, the Patriots have shown us different the last few years. System overhaul there, and I don't know that Jared Mayo is not the guy to get it done. I just think to go from one system that was there forever to a new system, completely. I know he was kind of the guy in waiting, so it's still a big change the way things are going to be done and all of that stuff. I think there are enough holes and things like that it's going to put them in a spot where I don't think they're going to be the worst team in football. I think they may start to rebound, but I think this is not they weren't a player or two away last year. You know what I mean? Mac Jones,
no, they were definitely not.
Mac Jones was not good. He has since been traded to the Jaguars.
With the number 1 quarterback in the league.
Was that the 21 quarterback class?
Yes.
That I sent you that graphic.
Yeah, every player but Trevor Lawrence has been traded.
Right. And yeah, that was a brutal class. Or so far, that's been a brutal outcome for that class.
Well, we can't go off on a tangent on Trevor Lawrence right now, but
no.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
And this will sound crazy, but yeah, just one comment on that. I'm still not convinced that Justin Fields isn't the best quarterback of that group.
Could be. I mean, we'll see what happens in Pittsburgh.
I know it hasn't played out that way, but I'm not convinced. But anyway, the Patriots are rebooting at quarterback. They took Drake May from North Carolina, who, again, I'm not necessarily sold on, but I would have had a bigger issue if, the Bears took Drake May or something you know what I mean?
Right.
At third, if you told me he was your third best quarterback, maybe he is. And they drafted some other offensive help. You look at their draft selections, they went quarterback with the 3rd overall pick. In the second round, they went with wide receiver, the kid from Washington, Polk. Then
Yeah, Jalen
the
Polk, yeah.
Third round, they went with an offensive tackle, Caden Wallace, from Penn State.
Who I don't know if you listen to Ross Tucker, but he has Greg Cosell on.
Oh, yeah.
He said that he thought Caden Wallace was as good as Fashanu.
Wow.
So I could not think of
Wow.
his name, which was kind of crazy to hear because Caden Wallace was one of those guys. I believe he was a 4-year starter for Penn State.
Yes.
Maybe not every game because of injuries and even
right.
maybe as a redshirt freshman or a true freshman. I don't even remember what he was when he was starting. But it was at times he didn't always look the best, we thought. But Greg watches a ton of tape, and he
Correct.
said he thought that was like a franchise tackle that the Patriots
Right.
got. So that one has me a little 50-50 opinion.
Right. So, and then in the fourth round, at picks 103 and 110, they picked another guard and another wide receiver. Not another guard, but they picked a guard and then another wide receiver. Then they went a defensive back at 180, and then they went another quarterback late at the end of the sixth round.
Yeah, who was that?
Joe Milton from Tennessee.
That's right.
Who, again, is a great pick at 193, in my opinion, for almost any team.
It's no pick 199, but...
Yes, correct. But at 193, take a risk on a kid who has maybe the strongest arm of any.
Right, he had the tools.
Right. And, hey, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. They're probably hoping it doesn't necessarily work out, that Drake May is their guy, but
yeah.
I have no problem doubling down there at 193.
Is this a Robert Griffin, Kirk Cousins kind of deal?
Maybe. And then you have a tight end at 231. So they only took one defensive player.
Well, their defense was good.
Exactly. And they have a defensive, a former defender as their
right, Gerard
head
Mayo,
coach.
right.
He hasn't been a head coach. It's hard for me to say he's a defensive-minded head coach.
Well, you would think so, but
I would tend to believe that.
Right.
That's how I would slot him, but whatever. But their offense was horrendous for a couple years now, and so they put some resources behind it. And so that's what you get. But you look at it, what they say in the draft, well, in the first round, you're lucky if you get half of, the guys. But let's say even if a third of your picks really pan out, well, you really doubled down. They got some, by that metric, they probably got a couple difference makers on offense, or
right.
at least longtime contributors,
Yep.
guys that will contribute for a few years. And that's what they need. They need some stability so that they're not just looking to add in cast-offs through free agency. And if they can build some momentum, maybe they'll have more success with that. But I think the rebuild is on there, and that's fine. I just think it's going to be a bit until we see dramatic fruits of that change.
yeah, and they lost some, maybe not big impact, but big name players, Ezekiel Elliott and Mike Gesicki, who were there on 1-year deals or only ended up being there for 1 year. Elliott's back in Dallas, and Gesicki is now with the Bengals. Christian Gonzalez, their first-round pick last year, looked good in the first, handful of games he played to start the year. Maybe even didn't get the 5. I'm not sure. He might get injured really early. Actually, I think he got injured against the Dolphins, which might have been week 2 or 3, and it was lost for the season. But he looks the part. He looks like a really good player for them on a defense that was already pretty good. And like you mentioned, Mayo being the head coach, you would think that would certainly help the defense not lose a step at a minimum, if not
Right.
maybe even get better with continuity of staff and the people they have. So they were 4-13 last year, Justin. Where would you peg them this year then? If you also have them in 4, and also remember, my dad shocked my uncle when he said the Patriots would be 5-12.
Right.
Hey, my uncle, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. And they didn't get to 5-12.
I think I'm gonna put them at like 6 wins.
6 wins.
I think throwing some resources behind the offense, getting some consistency as from an offensive staff, like maybe having one voice as an offensive coordinator in there might benefit whoever the quarterback is.
You would think so,
But,
yeah.
So I'm going to go around 6 wins. If I had to move off that, I'm probably going to move closer to 5 than to 7, though. So
Sure, no,
I'd say 5 to 6, leaning more towards the 6, though.
Do you think Drake May start? Do you think Jacoby Brissett is the guy?
I think Drake May sees the field as the season goes on, but I think Jacoby Brissett has been good enough in that role to make it hard for a young guy to come in and do it. What is their? I know they were last place, so like, what's their schedule look like?
So they open at the Bengals. Then
Okay.
they host the Seahawks. They go to the Jets. They go to the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't start them before we play the Niners,
That's
unless they
a-
have to.
Then they host the Dolphins and Texans
Jeez.
before going to Jacksonville, but is technically in London. So they have Bengals, who people think will be good. Seahawks, who may be pushing wild card. Jets, people think will be good. 49ers, people think will be good. Dolphins, people I think will be good. Texans, definitely people think they'll be good. Jaguars, not really sure what to say, but in London. And then they have the Jets when they get back. They do not have a bye after their
Right.
London trip.
So I would think that I wouldn't start them as the season goes on. If they realize real quickly that it's they're not going to be competing, then maybe and he's showing that like maybe he's got what it takes. You can put him in there, but
I'd say maybe after the London game.
yeah, that would be my thought.
That's 7 games, depending on how they look. So they've got a little bit of a lighter schedule after that Jets game on October 27th in Week 8. Week 9 is at Titans. Week 10 is at Bears. Week 11 hosts Rams. Then they go to Miami, host the Colts, go to Arizona, and 2 of the last 3 weeks they play Buffalo. And the one sandwich in between is against Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers.
Yeah, so it's not great.
No, it's not great.
And at some point, you're going to need your guy to just play. You know
Right.
what I mean? I feel like Jacoby Brissett has shown that he's a guy that is serviceable. I also feel like he has shown he's a guy that's not going to be the quarterback for the full season, especially when you draft a guy number 3.
Right.
So I think Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starter for some time. I don't think he'll be the starter at the end of the season unless Drake May's hurt.
I agree with that, and I also think I'll peg them at 5 wins this year. Could I see 6 possibly? If the defense stays healthy, plays just as good or better than last year, and the offense has an extra gear. They just have a lot of pieces, but no real standouts on offense, like Ramondre Stevenson. They got your boy Jalen Reagor now. Juju's up there. I struggle to think that they're much better than
Right. Like
4 wins from last year.
I feel like they have maybe stopped the bleeding, but I don't know that they've done a lot to really swing momentum back in their favor.
Right.
Like,
I don't think they're all of a sudden going to win 11 games.
right.
I don't think they're there. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing if Drake May ends up starting at some point this
and
season.
I think the other 3 teams in the division are significantly better than them. Like that makes it tough. Like some of these divisions we've been like, oh man, these 4 teams are really kind of grouped together. Or these like, oh, these 2 aren't very good, but these 2 are really good. Like I think we'll get to where we place the other teams, but I think there's a gap between the other teams and the Patriots. And I just so even if they close that gap a little bit, I still have them in 4th. Like
Right. So even if they would get an extra win or 2, I think the other teams in the division are 500 or better, which would be even if they'd win 6 games, it's still 3 games better than 3rd place,
Right.
or 3 games worse than 3rd place. So, all right, I agree with you. Patriots in 4th, about 5 wins. I'll go here and give you who I think will be 3rd. I'm going Jets. Because I'm refusing to buy into the media narrative that has come out that the Jets are somehow a conference championship contender. Are they going to be better if Rodgers is healthy? Sure. I guess one of my questions is Rodgers healthy? Because there's been weird stuff out of there, like mini camps and stuff like that. Oh, also now he missed all of their mandatory camp for some random bizarre reason that no one really wants to talk about, but was unexcused. The Jets made it known. It's just really weird
Right, it's
start.
unexcused, but they've known for like a month.
Right.
Like, it's really weird how it was all handled, and I feel like the Jets, like, regardless of what I think, I feel like the Jets mishandled it. Like, they should have announced it a long time ago. Like, and I know some people are trying to downplay it, being like, well, he's been at everything. He's been okay. but like, but he hasn't been to everything. It's like when somebody's like, I got all A's and 2 B's and a C. Well,
Yeah.
no, you didn't get all A's. Like,
Right. So, do I think they have a good defense? Yeah, of course I think they have a good defense. Do I think they have pieces around them to have a good offense? Yeah, we know what Breece Hall can do. He's a very talented running back. They brought back Tariq Cohen, who I don't even think played last year, as a guy maybe only.
no, I
for
don't think he's played for like a couple years.
maybe only for this new kickoff return. But if he's able to break one, no one's catching him. They have Rodgers, and that Tyrod Taylor is there now as a backup, which Tyrod Taylor has proven that he is a solid backup and fringe starter in the league. They got Jordan Travis in the draft to, had that gruesome injury at the end of the year, but was one of the better quarterbacks in college last season. And Rodgers, it seems to be comfortable with the guys he has at receiver. Obviously, Lazard didn't have a great year last year, but they brought in Mike Williams, who's coming off a knee injury. But Garrett Wilson is in his 3rd year now, and everyone's still really high about his potential. So the 3 of them, and obviously there's going to be a couple other guys that step up. That's a decent trio, and Conklin and Ruckert at tight end. They're always been working on their offensive line, like so many teams. But they drafted our boy Fashanu, and should start at one of the tackles. They have Morgan Moses.
I remember when that happened. I'm like, oh man, Joey is not. He is not going to be thrilled.
No, I was not. They drafted Elijah Vera Tucker high as an interior lineman a few years ago, and they brought in Tyron Smith, the long-time Cowboys left tackle, to help them figure out what's going on along that line. And if they stay healthy, a big if, that should be a decent offense, even with Rodgers missing an entire year. He's better than a lot that they have out there. And we already mentioned that their defense is really, really strong. There's not too many people better than Quinnen Williams. And they've got a lot of pass rushers. They've got a great defensive backfield, especially with Sauce Gardner at cornerback. So there is a lot to like with the Jets. It just seems like, well, what was it? I saw this big cat from Barstool. I was trying to think of, pardon my take, from PMT. Says dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things about the Jets.
Yeah.
And it just feels like that's going to happen this year at some point. Like, we're already seeing it with Aaron Rodgers. What leads us to believe that that's not going to happen at some point during this season either?
Yeah, like I'm on board with you, and I have them as my 3rd place team as well.
Well, and also we've heard that basically the league was like, you owe us for last year, and they threw them on all these primetime games, especially at the beginning of the season. Like in the first 9 weeks, I think they play.
Yeah, their schedule's not
it's
great.
Like five solo games in the first nine weeks or something like that. It's crazy, and they start at San Francisco.
Yeah.
So they're going on the road playing a team that some think may be the best team in the NFL, or at easily one of them.
I took a timeout just to force them to kick the field goal.
Yeah, that's fine. Then they got to go on the road 6 days later to the Titans. And their first home game is against the Patriots, but that's a Thursday night game. So they go from playing, Monday night to your normal Sunday afternoon game, but on the road, those first 2 games. Then they have a short week to host the Patriots on a Thursday night. They could easily be 1-2 after those games. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't think they're going to lose to the Titans and Patriots, but it's the Jets. It could happen.
Well, you know what's. I'm not saying this is my actual prediction. This is my chaos theory kind of prediction. They win at San Francisco, right? And it is just like chaos and everything that you hate.
Right. Well, I was going to say I would hate that.
And just oh my gosh, we're going to the Super Bowl, all of that stuff. And then, I feel like it would be very Jets to win their first 2 weeks on the road and then lose to the Patriots and Broncos at home. Just something crazy.
Absolutely.
That's what I kind of feel. Now, I don't know. I wouldn't predict that. I'm not predicting them to beat San Francisco. But just something crazy like that would be wild. But anyway, yeah, oh man, And then
I honestly
you look-
would love that if they beat the 49ers and everyone starts hyping them up and then they lose
Well,
the
I was
next
gonna
5 games.
I was gonna say, I feel like I know you well enough to know that like you would tolerate that win for the known downfall. You know what I mean? Like kind of like building them up so they fall even harder.
Just wait until
You
they
know.
screw it up.
Right. But
But I would be secretly hoping, or not secret, I would be secretly terrified that that's not what happens.
Right.
You know?
it's kind of wild.
He dropped it.
They play the Bills once and the Patriots twice before their bye. Later bye, like the week before Thanksgiving almost is like their bye.
It'd take too long to set up.
Um,
I'm trying for the end zone one more time.
absolutely.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, exactly. But when we look at it, it's just like one of those things where
Oh, come on. No way.
I think they're I think they'll be better than last year
Right.
because like I anticipate, Rodgers playing more than 4 seconds this year.
Right. I still
man,
can't believe that's how little he
with
played.
how
How nuts is
bad
that?
Zach Wilson was.
Right.
And their failure to do anything with regards to improving him or their quarterback situation is just crazy. To go into a season and be like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to roll with the 38 or 39-year-old quarterback, and have no plan.
And I
It's
know,
crazy.
and I know what a lot of the media and all the people that do the same thing we're doing right now, what they're thinking is, well, the Jets went 7-10 last year without Aaron Rodgers and with Zach Wilson at quarterback and whatever else they threw together. How could they not win a bunch more games? And maybe they will. Maybe they'll win 10 or 11 games. I just feel like something's going to come up to prevent that from happening. And maybe that is just my wishful thinking.
The Jets are going to jet, right?
The Jets are going to jet, and that is certainly my hope. Just because I hate the Jets for obvious reasons, it's a rivalry. But with Aaron Rodgers there now, I just can't with them and their fans. It's just obnoxiousness 24/7. So they finish with Bills Dolphins back to back. So if they're in the running for the division, those 2 games will have a huge impact on what happens there.
Oh, we can hope.
They
man.
play the Dolphins
Just-
twice in the last 5 weeks, December 8th and January 4th or 5th, depending
Oh
on
man, that's
the way things.
your nightmare there, isn't it? Like meaningful games against the Jets in the last month
Late.
of the season.
What Well, I guess I started with them. So they were 7-10 last year. I do think that they'll be better. I'm gonna say 9-8.
Okay.
So I have Patriots at 5-12. I'll have Jets at 9-8.
I can put them there too. That's actually where I was going to go. I think they are better than last year. I just don't think they're to bring another term over that we use a lot, a generational talent. I think there's plenty of, and I think there's other teams in the division that are better. But I think that gap between, the Patriots and the Jets is, in my opinion, maybe the biggest gap. I don't know about that. But this is not a knock on you or the other. I think I feel like that gap between the Jets in second place is smaller than the gap between the Jets and the Patriots right now.
No, I agree. I'll go ahead. You can give your second place team.
So my second place team, I'm gonna go with the Dolphins.
I hate you.
I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. I think they're fine. I don't know.
Oh, you got to be kidding. Are you kidding?
I feel like I still want to see I want to see them get it right on the defensive side of the ball. To say I believe in I certainly believe in McDaniel's creativity, play calling and everything on the offensive side. I'm looking for some more consistency on the offensive side of the ball. And that's what I want to see is more consistency on the offensive side of the ball. And I need to see more out of the defense. Now, some of that was just they were so banged up. By
Well, at the
year
end of the
last year
season, yeah, there
insane.
was.
But like, I listen. I know it's not the same, but it kind of gave me the feel of the Chip Kelly style offense with the Eagles early on, where like, look, this offense can be amazing, right? But like when it's not amazing,
It's putrid.
and the defense wasn't able to keep pace. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the exact same scenario. I'm not like that's not what I'm trying. I kind of got the same feel that like when the Dolphins offense was like clicking, their offense was as good at, if not better than a lot of the teams. Well, even the good teams in the NFL. Like their offense was very, very good. When it wasn't at that highest level, clicking in that highest gear, the defense was not nearly good enough to help them kind of like grind out games. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so like I kind of feel like love that he dove for the wide open.
Right. He was wide open.
So that's where I need to see improvements from the defense.
And I do think you're going to see improvement from the defense. My question is,
I agree.
is the offense going to be good enough against better opponents? Like, I know you can beat up on bad teams by and large. They started to unravel in December when they lost that Monday night game to the Titans. That was unacceptable, inexcusable.
Yeah.
It was on a struggling offense and a defense that looked terrible. Now, I was really excited about Fangio coming to town last year, but I could tell all season that something was off.
Right.
And very clearly after they parted ways, there was a whole bunch of stuff about him not wanting to be down there, and also not using his players to the way they should have been used is essentially what happened. Dang it. So I do think the defense will be better as long as everyone's healthy. They have guys that got injured. Like you mentioned, I think I told you before the playoff game against the Chiefs, they were down at least 5, if not 6 defensive starters.
Yeah.
For that game,
And
just against the best quarterback in the league.
Right. Like, for all the teams, to be down against the Chiefs puts you in a no-win situation.
They're terrible in cold weather, and that was literally the coldest. You can't get much colder. There haven't been too many football games played in a colder atmosphere. So I don't want to make excuses. I just think
it's all what happens.
the Dolphins were 11-6 last year. They should have been division champs, but they choked against the Bills at the end of the season. Ended up falling to the 6th seed, having to play the Chiefs. They should be getting back Bradley Chubb. I don't know if he'll be ready for the beginning of the year because he got injured against Baltimore right near the end of the season.
That'll be a huge pickup, though, when they get him.
Right. But they should be getting back Jalen Phillips a little bit earlier. He tore his Achilles in New York on Black Friday against the Jets. Then they drafted Chop Robinson, got the Penn State edge rusher that should be able to rotate in there.
Be awesome to see him have some impact this year.
Right. So they lost, an offensive lineman in Robert Hunt. Teron Armstead came back for probably one more year. They signed a new center in Aaron Brewer because their center also tore his ACL and was lost for the latter half of the season. They just recently signed a few veterans in Calais Campbell and Marcus May. They had also added Kendall Fuller and Jordan Poyer. They still have Jalen Ramsey. Cam Smith is a guy that was supposed to have a bigger role last year but didn't end up having a bigger role. They signed Jonnu Smith to add to the tight end room with Durham Smythe. Apparently, the Dolphins also have Hayden Rucci. I just saw that as an undrafted guy. But it's tough for anyone to match their top 3 receivers in Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and even an elderly and decrepit Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
Like the 3 of them now with Jonnu Smith and the running backs, like not only did they have Mostert and A-Chain and Jeff Wilson, they also drafted Jalen Wright.
Right.
So they have the
again,
pieces.
The offensive weapons are insane. The offense, I think, has the potential to be really good. We'll just have to. I need more consistency out of the offense, which I would expect, and then more from the defense. The defense, like if you've got a great offense, your defense doesn't have to be great. You just need it to be middle of the pack. Like if you have a top 10 or top 8 offense, right? If you can get a top 15 defense, you're probably like, I would believe the expected outcome would be for you to make the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of where you're at. And honestly, if they hit the playoffs without playing like, with a majority of their defensive starters, then maybe they can, make a run at some things. When I look at the Dolphins' schedule, though, there's some keys there. They've got to win. They've got to win those winnable games. I think the Raiders are on there. You have to beat the Raiders.
Right.
I maybe the Titans. Are the Titans on there? Like, you have to beat the Titans. I don't know. I could be mixing
No,
up.
I'm not sure the
otherwise.
Titans are because they play New England.
Okay.
But
okay.
no, they are because we play the
Okay.
NFC South.
So like the Titans, you must beat the Titans. You get the Jaguars at home to start the season. I know the Jaguars, in Jaguars' mind, would be like a playoff contender, right? But at home, like, I feel like that's one. I wouldn't put that in the same category as the others. But like, let's look. You must beat the Titans. You must beat the Raiders.
See, I think you have to be 4-1 when you enter the bye. Miami's first 5 games are Jaguars, Bills, at Seahawks, Titans, at Patriots.
Yeah.
They should be better than 4 of those 5 teams. And honestly, people think we should be better than Buffalo.
Right.
So
I'll give you 3-2 at a minimum because because I'm throwing the at Seattle. Like, that's just
I know that's tough.
Although, wait, why? Oh, is that's a Thursday? The Bills
the
game.
Bills game's a Thursday.
Right, yeah, the Bills game. So you have like the extended time before going out west. I like that. Not thrilled about playing
Buffalo on a short
At least
week.
you get them on a short week at home.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Whereas Buffalo is, well, they're going. It's too bad they're not at Arizona. And
At
then
Arizona. That would be great.
But Miami, to me, if they're not 4-1 entering the bye, that's bad. But they also have winnable games coming out of the bye.
Yes.
Indianapolis,
Okay.
I don't think is a
Right.
terrible
No,
team.
but Arizona, that's a must-win.
At home, Arizona at home.
You have to win that game. You
So-
have to.
Then you go to Buffalo, but the best thing is it's November 3rd. Now, it's going to be cold in Buffalo. It's not January 3rd.
Things don't get
It's
better
November
as the
3rd.
season goes
Right.
on in Buffalo.
And then you're done with Buffalo by week 9.
Right. I love that.
So, but honestly, I don't
What's
think
crazy
their
is,
schedule
like,
is that
we-
terrible
right.
until the end of the season.
But in the end of the season is a little tough. But
Well,
you look at
geez,
it,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
okay.
the Jets twice. But
Well, see, by
like-
then, hopefully the Jets have jetted, and they're
yes.
terrible.
like after Thanksgiving, you only have 2 divisional games.
Right.
Like, that's wild.
And they're both the Jets.
right. You're done
but-
with the Patriots, who need to be. You need to win both those, right?
You have
Like,
to win
you have to win
those
both
games
those.
against the Patriots. You have to beat the Raiders. At Rams, I still like.
Well, so
You should be better than that.
right, you also get
should
New
be better
England.
than that.
You're at New England beginning of October.
right.
That's hey, if you've got to go to New England, going earlier is better.
Now the only really bad cold options are at Green Bay on. Oh, that's the Thanksgiving night game. Dolphins at Packers Thanksgiving
Happy
night.
Thanksgiving.
And then January 4th or 5th, they're at the Jets. So they're in New York.
Yeah.
In the new year,
And
possibly cold.
Cleveland the week before.
Oh yeah, and oh god, yeah. But those last 6 weeks are tough. If the Jets haven't jetted and are good,
Right.
going at Green Bay, host the Jets, at Houston, host the 49ers, at Browns, at Jets. That's a tough 6 weeks. That's what I'm saying.
You've got to set it up.
They
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah.
probably what would that be? Sit with 6 games. Honestly, like 8-3 at worst. Like you have to be 8-3 at worst because then if you go 3-3, you match last year's record of 11-6.
8-3 at 3-1 at 3-1 in the division. Right? I'm calling a split with the Bills.
Well, that would be nice.
And a sweep of
And
the
sweep-
Patriots.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but I agree with you. I have Dolphins in second. I'm gonna say match last year just because the way the
Yeah.
season ends.
Yeah, I agree.
I would love to say they're gonna win 12 games.
Right.
But I don't think I can. I think they're in that 10-11
I agree.
win area.
Yeah. I honestly think I'll go 10-11 as well.
All right, I know we want to finish the game. We're going to run through Buffalo real fast. Obviously, we both have Buffalo in first, so we agree again, top
Yeah.
to bottom, 1-4. Buffalo won the division again, I think, for the 4th straight year. Now, they went through a lot of changes with players leaving, both as free agents or through trades. Obviously, the biggest one that people are talking about is the trade of Stephon Diggs. They've also lost Tre'Davious White, Trent Sherfield, Jordan Phillips, We just mentioned Jordan Poyer to the Dolphins. They lost Gabe Davis to the Jaguars. Leonard Floyd went to the 49ers. Jermaine Ifedi went to the Browns. Naheem Hines, who's returning from injury, went to the Browns as well. And Mitch Morse went to the Jaguars. They did add Keon Coleman and Cole Bishop, two players that I was very high on coming out of the draft. So unfortunately, they had to go to Buffalo. They did also draft Daquan Hardy, so we got a Penn Stater up in Buffalo as well. Once again, if you have Josh Allen, you're going to be in a lot of games. He can also take you out of a couple games, but he's going to also keep you in or win a lot of games for you. It'll be interesting to see how their wide receiver group shakes out. They brought in Chase Claypool, who hasn't been able to duplicate his early success in Pittsburgh. Same thing, they brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling after the Super Bowl win in Kansas City. Curtis Samuel as well. Mac Hollins, journeyman. So there's a lot of players there, but how are they going to fit in with the offense?
Right, and it's going to come down to, and like, the pieces that we thought have been there in Buffalo either haven't panned out or they haven't performed to the level we thought they might. Does that make sense? Like, or crazy stuff happens and you give the ball back to Mahomes twice with too much time left. You know,
Right,
like,
and I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like if they win the division again, which we're predicting they will, which means we're probably saying they're going to win at least 11 or 12 games.
right.
If they fall to the Chiefs, I feel like at any point in the postseason, I could see them making a change, which sounds crazy if you win 5 division championships in a row, but you have to be winning. You have to be winning those games against what has become a rival.
Right.
And there are question marks around the coaching decisions in these games. So if you don't have someone that can get you over the hump, and we've seen it many times before, like just look at John Gruden coming into Tampa Bay winning in year 1.
Yep.
Just because they didn't think Tony Dungy was getting it done after all those multiple NFC championship game appearances. It just wasn't the success that they were looking for. They wanted more. So could McDermott be out if they struggle again? Honestly, I feel like is more likely to return if they are an above average team and maybe sneak into the playoffs than it would be if they are the 1 or 2 seed but don't make the Super Bowl. That sounds kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, because remember, like, who knows what we'll get from the Chiefs, but remember, like, if they were to lose to the Chiefs, like, in Buffalo again, that
was the worst part of it this past year was it was in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And the year before, they looked awful against the Bengals in
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Losing home playoff games.
And they didn't look good against the Dolphins. That they were lucky.
Right,
to get
they
out of
were
there
lucky,
against the
and that
Dolphins.
was against the third string quarterback.
Right. So, like, it's just, and it starts to become, and this is crazy talk, because they still have the quarterback. Like, for his pluses and minuses, he's good enough to win them a Super Bowl, right? Like, I feel like, I'm not saying he's the best in the league, but, like, if we're talking about, if I have to classify guys into, like, are good enough or are not good enough, I'm putting him in that is good enough every time.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, like, are they going to capitalize on that? Because, like, honestly, they've paid him. What is he? Is he in year 2 of his new deal now?
Well, I know this is when the money went through the roof was this season.
Yes, and it's
One of the
gonna
reasons they jettisoned some people.
Right, it's going to get harder. Now, like, you can hit a sweet spot there if the cap continues to go up and you're locked into an old deal. Like, so where, like, right now, again, this is a little distorted, but, like, where Mahomes is, like, 5th or 6th on the quarterback pay scale right now, something like that. Well, that's because they locked him in at a high rate, like, so they need that to happen. But then again, it can be tough, especially if you're trying to get over the hump. Like, getting guys to come there isn't always the easiest thing to do.
Right. So I still expect a lot from Buffalo this year. Maybe they'll have some trouble early getting people on the same page, getting back into game action with a new look offense. But I still expect Buffalo to be very good. One of the, probably top 3 or 4 teams in the AFC, as much as I don't like to say it. All right, real quick before we hop over to the NFC East, my dad did chime in. He actually has things just a little different. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought he was saying he was picking the Jets 4th. He did pick New England in 4th, Jets 3rd. He has Buffalo 2nd, and he said for this 1 year he's going with the Dolphins. Now,
Hey.
obviously, I would love for
Honestly,
that to be the case,
If there's the year where it happens, maybe this is the year.
I would be very excited if that were the case, but I'm a pessimist. I need to see it to believe it, because last year I thought I was ready to see something, and then they had that late season meltdown. That loss to the Titans really upset me, and then they looked bad in most of the rest of their games, including the playoff loss to the Chiefs. All right, so quickly switch over to the NFC East. I'll get started here, Justin. I'm putting the New York Giants in 4th place. I just don't seeing them having enough offense to do anything this year. I've never been a real supporter of Daniel Jones or Tommy DeVito, for that matter. I don't think either of them are the answer. I think they're going to find that out possibly in a hard way this season. You know, they were 3rd in the division last year. They finished 6-11. They lost Saquon Barkley. He's obviously the biggest name that departed. Maybe Xavier McKinney next. I know they traded for Brian Burns. Adding to the defense is great. Maybe it'll keep him in some games. And Malik Neighbors was very high on a lot of people's boards coming out of LSU. They got him with the 6th overall pick. But you still got to get him the ball, and you still got to have someone carry the ball. I guess they're going to rely on Devin Singletary, but I don't know. I know they've got young tackles in Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. I don't believe in their offense unless something really changes. I just have a tough time thinking that Dable's group is going to get it done. I'm just not very high on what they're doing. I think they'll have a good defense, but I don't think it's enough to carry them. And in the division with the Eagles and Cowboys, and an unknown really with the Commanders this year, I just not very high on New York.
I agree.
I'll put them at, so what did I say, 6-11 last year? I'd say around that. If anything, I might do one less. I might say 5. 5 to 6 is probably where I have the Giants, and I think Dable gets fired this season.
Oh, I think he absolutely.
I don't think it's his fault.
No. I think he absolutely gets fired, and I think, I'm putting him same spot. I think 5 or 6 wins.
In 4th place?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we'd agree on that.
No, I do. I just think this is from a, like, you just look at it, what are they doing? Like, they've already moved on from Daniel Jones, right? Like, it
feels like they probably are.
It feels like they have.
He's coming off an
Whereas,
injury,
like,
too.
You go to, like, the other team where there's a question mark at quarterback right now, they feel like they've got their guy. You know, he's a rookie, but they got a head coach, new head coach, rookie quarterback. Like, they feel like they're building, and I feel like I would expect them to go up. I feel like the writing's on the wall, and if things aren't going well for the Giants, like, it's going to be really tough. Now, you could have Daniel Jones playing for his career. No, like, he'll probably get picked up somewhere.
Right, and then what's going to happen is he does lead them to the playoffs at 9-8 or something. They make like the last wild card, and he has like the best year of his career, and then they sign him to a long-term deal, and guess what? He's still not the answer.
Right, or they have to franchise him for like $60 million or something absurd. You know, like, yeah. I'm not a believer in their team as a whole. I think it's not working with Dable, but I don't know that he's really been set up for success there. I think they're in a bad spot, and I think they're in a spot where we're expecting them to start to rebuild maybe this year. Like, I feel like some of their thing, like, it's rebuilding this year, but they're going to have to, it's going to extend into next year when I think they're going to be drafting a quarterback and have a new head coach. So,
right. Yeah, it's just a vicious cycle.
Right. So I think the writing's on the wall there, and I think that's going to be bad down the stretch. You also look at their schedule after their bye. So their bye is like the November 17th, essentially, right? They play the Buccaneers, who won the division last year, and we're not super high on, but won the division last year. At the Cowboys. Then they play the Saints, who, again, we're not super high on the NFC South. But then they play the Ravens, the Falcons, the team we think is going to win the NFC South. Then they play the Colts, a team who we think could be battling for a playoff spot, depending on how their quarterback situation plays out. And then at the Eagles. So, like, not
an easy
real
start.
Easy. Now, leading into they played the Panthers and the Commanders going into their bye. So, the schedule isn't insane, but it's not like it's real easy either. So, I just think they could be in a tough spot, and I could see when it's going bad. If it goes bad early, Dable could be fired during the season.
And what week is their bye?
Their bye is not until week 11.
I could see them making a change then after
Yeah.
week 10. Like if they're 1-9,
And
2-8.
They're in Germany the week before the bye. So they play the Panthers, but it's in Germany.
oh boy. Well, that's a must win. Like they should be better than the Panthers.
Yeah.
We didn't win the Heisman.
But yeah, you lose to the Panthers in Germany, and Dable may want to stay and just have an extended
All right,
vacation.
we're playing Missouri in the Liberty Bowl. We're only ranked. Somehow we dropped after winning our conference championship.
Oh, jeez.
We're still in the top 25, just barely.
But yeah, so I put them. I think somewhere in that 5-6 win range. I just don't think they're going to be very good. I did not like that they added a wide receiver who I think is quality, and I think we're going to see some big plays there. But I just don't think they have enough on offense to really get it done.
Yeah, it almost feels like they're phoning in 2024 and already looking ahead to 2025, where they probably have a new coach and definitely have a new quarterback.
Right. Well, and here's the thing: if it's going bad early, I'm not saying the team I'm not saying the coach or the players, but if it's not going well, how much is the team going to want success towards the end of the season?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Who knows? But
so
so we have them in last place. You have them about 5 to 6 wins. Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Same
Yep.
as me.
Yep.
So I'll let you say your
Okay.
third place is, but I
It's
assume
gonna
we're
be
on the same.
Yeah, I'm going the Commanders. I think they're going to struggle a bit, but I don't like this, but I think they may have found their quarterback. Who nobody knows. It's
Maybe,
a rookie,
right,
but
maybe.
like they're taking a full swing. They're not check. It's not a check swing. Like they're taking a home run swing at
Sure.
it, and Jaden Daniels may be a home run like waiting to happen. I don't know.
I mean, after the way C.J. Stroud burst onto the scene last year, I'm gonna give Jaden Daniels the benefit of the doubt. And this sounds crazy because one is playing in the NFL, one was playing in college, but I feel like obviously he has a much higher ceiling than Jaden Daniels does.
Oh yeah.
Like much higher. He has a lot of potential. We know what Daniel Jones is.
Right.
Jaden Daniels is unknown. I'm sure if we rank the top 32 who we think starting at quarterback, we maybe would put Daniels below Daniel Jones because we haven't seen it yet.
I
but
probably
feel
would
like,
now, but I don't know if I would
by
by the
the
Giants
end of the
bye.
season. I honestly I
Right.
feel like he's going to be above him. That's
Right.
just
and to
my
be honest,
expectation.
if he's not, Washington's probably a little frustrated. I'm not saying they're even concerned yet, but they're probably a little frustrated. If by the end of the season we don't have Daniels ranked above
Daniel Jones.
then I think it's going to be an issue. I think they're going to be improving. I think they're going to be heading in the right direction. I just think they're not quite there yet. So I'm going to put the Commanders at like 7 to 8 wins.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. I think that's right where I'll
but
put 'em.
trending in the right direction. I
Right.
don't like that, but that's
Right.
kind of where I
well,
put them.
so they were 4-13 last year. They were in 4th place. Fired their coach. Their new coach now is Dan Quinn, who didn't have a lot of success long term with the Falcons, but had some. It looked good at times, and has the Cowboys defense pretty well the last few seasons. Added Jaden Daniels. Actually, I like their
it's
first
like-
3 picks.
It's like Dan Quinn leaving the Cowboys defense. Yes, going to the Commanders.
Oh,
no.
So Washington took Jaden Daniels, the quarterback, out of LSU at number 2. Jerzon Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois, who you heard. Well, we didn't do the draft show, but I was saying to you, I would love him in Miami.
Yeah.
He ended up going to Washington at 36. And then the cornerback from Michigan, Mike Sanderstill, at number 50. Those were 3 great picks by Washington. I believe they've already said Jaden Daniels is a starter, right?
I don't remember, but I feel like
they did because otherwise it's going to be Mariota. I think
No,
they're
it's
going.
him.
I think they're going Daniels. They brought in Austin Eckler.
There's no
as
Jacoby
well.
Brissett on that roster.
Right. They brought in Austin Eckler. They signed Jeremy McNichols. They have Brian Robinson. They have a nice stable group of running backs there. Now you heard me say Curtis Samuel's with the Bills now, but they still have Jahan Dotson. They brought in Luke McCaffrey. I believe was he an undrafted guy or did they draft him?
I think they got him late.
Okay. They still have Terry McLaurin. Our boy Mitchell Tinsley, they're
Yeah,
hanging on. So
yeah.
2 Penn State receivers
Right,
down
I know.
there.
Like they've got a good wide receiver room, and I think with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, he has some weapons, and a lot of times when you're drafting the quarterback at 2, they don't have weapons to throw to. You know, that's.
Right. So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people think we're crazy that they
I feel
could
like Washington
add 3
has
or
been
4
a team
wins,
though,
but
and not that you ever want to be rebuilding, but I feel like they have rebuilt possibly have rebuilt in a way where you're adding the quarterback last, as opposed to adding the quarterback first, because then you're just trying to guess at all these pieces while your quarterback's getting the crap kicked out of him.
right.
So yeah,
And I don't think because they finished 4th last year. I don't think their schedule is that overwhelming.
no,
But other than they play 4 games, obviously combined between the Cowboys and Eagles. You got to play that. But a lot of the other games, and they do have. So they have the AFC North, so that kind of sucks because all 4 of those teams I think should be
Right.
500 or better.
Right.
They're all very good teams. Could Washington steal an upset of one of them? I think they could.
I hope they win week,
Especially because they
18.
have Bengals, Browns, Ravens in the first 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
when Jaden Daniels is still new.
Yeah.
And that system is new under new coaching staff. And we've talked about this a lot. New coaching staff sometimes can mean an extra 2 or 3 wins. Well, you also add in a dynamic rookie quarterback. I think they could win 7 or 8 games.
Right. They're away 4 of their first 6 games, too.
Which just means later in the year, at some
Right.
point, they have a ton at home.
Right.
So if
you
they
look
can
at
weather
their
that
last
storm-
ones. They play at Philly.
Oops.
They play at Philly, and then
I closed it. I closed it out. On
yeah,
you.
I was like, wait, that's not. So they play at Philly, and then they're home against Dallas, home against the Titans. Then they have the bye week 14,
Right.
and then they're at New Orleans, but home against Philly, home
So
against
They don't have
the
an away
Falcons.
game for a month because of the
Right,
bye. They only
right.
play 2 home games in that
Yeah.
span, but they have an away game on the November 14th, and they don't go away until December 15th.
Yeah.
And 2 of their final 3 are at home.
Yep.
So,
They play the Giants before they play twice before they play the Eagles or the Cowboys.
yep. They got to get those 2 wins right there.
That'll be
Alright.
huge in determining who's third
Now-
and fourth in the division.
We're running out of times. I don't want to rush these, and we can talk more about these 2 teams when we do the full recap in a month. But just to lay it out there to
Yep.
begin with, I'm going to put Dallas at 2nd.
Okay.
I'm usually the one that ends up putting Dallas in 1st. I just feel like this offseason was super weird for them. Feels like they needed to strike while the iron was hot, and they backed off on it. You know, the Joneses said that they were all in, and they did basically nothing to prove that in free agency and in the draft. It just was super, super weird to me. And the way that the playoffs have ended for them now, the last 3 seasons have
Yeah.
been really brutal. I mean, they were 12-5 last year. They won the division. They did bring McCarthy back, because there was talk at time, could Belichick end up there? They brought back Ezekiel Elliott and signed Royce Freeman to try to figure out the running back position after letting Tony Pollard go to the Titans.
He's making money off of 2 deals with them.
Right. Bonkers. They lost Michael Gallup. They lost Tyron Smith. They lost
Tony
Tyler
Pollard.
Biadasz. They lost Tony Pollard. They lost Dante Fowler. They lost Neville Gallimore. They lost Jonathan Hankins. Leighton Vander Esch retired. Stephon Gilmore is still unsigned. They did draft Taylor Guyton to come in along the offensive line, same as Cooper Beebe, two guys that I
Yeah.
liked. So they're trying to figure things out there, but they're also, you can see contract issues impact players during the season, and they have an issue with Dak Prescott and with Micah Parsons, their best
And-
player on both sides
Right.
of the ball.
And one of those is not afraid to talk about.
Right.
Like, some people don't like to bring up like things that might be like awkward. Micah Parsons is not one of those.
No,
and
he
I'm not
doesn't
saying like
care.
it's his contract. So like if he wants to talk about it, it's not like he's disparaging anything. Like he's just very open. Does that make sense? Like and he performs. You know, it's not like he's not performing, but like and CeeDee Lamb, like
Well, right, they need to sign him too.
right, he wasn't at some of the minicamp
Right. So
stuff.
there's just a lot of issues going on, a lot of distractions. Never a good thing. They were 12-5 last
Yeah.
year. I
won the division, so they have the
They have the
ones.
first place schedule.
Right.
I'm probably going. I'll say 11-6.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go 10-7.
Okay.
I still think they're a playoff team. I still think they're very good. I just feel like there's some issues. You have a new defensive system under Mike Zimmer after Dan Quinn left.
With some of your leaders on defense not there either. Like, so that can be tough.
So there's a lot of changes, not a lot of confidence, still a lot of talent, but I could see the Cowboys not being as strong, and maybe they struggle early, but then things start rolling towards the end. Then it would be dangerous, and I would feel bad if I was an Eagles fan if the Cowboys are rolling at the end of the season.
I'd much rather it be like
the other way around.
They're
right?
like okay, and then the wheels start to fall
right.
off. Like that's what the trend I want.
So I'm gonna say 10 to 11 wins for Dallas. Still a playoff caliber team. Just so a lot of off the field things impacting the product on the field. Their schedule wise, because it's a first place schedule, it's pretty tough. They start with Cleveland away, playoff team from last year.
Go Browns.
Saints at home, Ravens
Saints.
at home, one of the best AFC teams. Then at the Giants, at Pittsburgh, which is always a tough game. Then they have the Lions, who are definitely looking for revenge after last year, right before Dallas's bye. Then they come out of the bye with the 49ers on the road, who embarrassed them last season, right?
Yeah.
San Francisco embarrassed the Cowboys last year. So they kind of like flip-flop back and forth. Tough game, maybe
at
an
San
easy
Francisco
game.
and
Tough
then
game.
at Atlanta.
Right, they go
weeks.
back-to-back away games, then have the Eagles and Texans, both at home, but still, 3 or 4 weeks there, you have at 49ers, at Falcons, Eagles, Texans.
Right.
Commanders, Giants, okay, should win those games, one of which is on Thanksgiving. And then you have the Bengals,
So
Panthers must win, Bucks, Eagles, Commanders.
so by your standings here, that's going to be all 4 division winners or 4 divisional winners in a row in that week 8 to 11 stretch. Because you're having the Eagles win, right? So you took the
you're right,
Niners,
yeah,
we
you're
took
right.
the Falcons.
Yeah, you're right.
You're taking the Eagles, and we took the Texans.
So they play the 4 teams that we, or I at least, expect to win the division.
I
have someone else?
haven't made my NFC East pick yet. But
Well, we know where it's going. Okay, who do you have in second?
I'm going to take the
NFC?
Cowboys in second in the NFC East.
Yeah, what a shock.
Yeah, I think I was shocked by their lack of activity this offseason. And I don't necessarily mean that in like the free agent aspect, even though why do you go out and say we're all in and then make no free agency
it was
signings?
really
That's
weird.
really weird. But like you can say we're all in and then restructure or get a bunch of your guys. Get CD Lamb signed and extended. Get Micah extended. Get Dak extended. Like you can be all in and not bring in the other guys, but like set yourself up structurally so that you can then be in the market. So the tough thing is now, like as it stands right now, the tough thing for them next year is if they were to say, and this is independent of their success this year, but even if they are successful, think about how much they're going to have to pay Dak.
Yeah.
Like
After all these other receiver
Trevor
and
Lawrence just got
quarterback
$200 million guaranteed.
250, I think.
Okay, I right. So like think about how much he just got,
And he's
And-
done way less than
and
Dak.
I'm
has.
taking and maybe. I don't like to think that there's people out there like this, but like, are there people that would take Trevor Lawrence over Dak? Like, I don't think so,
There
right?
absolutely are, but
That's crazy, right?
That's
Like,
crazy.
I take
Now,
Dak.
It's one of those things, though. If you're starting a franchise and get him right now,
Yes.
you could
Right,
maybe
right,
be
right.
talked into.
Right, I can understand your
But
argument.
like, if you're talking like one single
Right.
season,
We're going
or
into the
one
playoffs
game,
and we're redrafting teams. Who am I taking?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
taking
taking
Dak.
Dak. I'm
Right.
taking Dak.
Right.
I'm
And I know,
sorry.
I know within my fandom that's probably
Right.
blasphemous, but like Dak or Trevor Lawrence, I'm taking Dak.
If you all of a sudden own an NFL team and get to take a quarterback in the middle of the
Right,
season,
right.
all of a sudden you're
Ex-
taking Dak.
Expansion
over
draft
Trevor
where no one can be protected. Imagine that.
Oh my gosh, how nutty would that be? All right, so we're not going to get to the Eagles a huge
Right,
breakdown, but obviously we both have them in first.
Yeah.
My dad actually completely agrees with us.
Okay.
He has Giants fourth, Commanders third, Cowboys second, Eagles
I'm putting
first.
the Eagles at like 12 wins. I don't think it's going to be drastic difference
I'm
between them
going
and
to
the
say
Cowboys.
11 to 12.
Right.
So I, have
I
Dallas
put
10 to
Cowboys
11,
at 11. Yeah, I'm just bumping up one to the
Eagles 11 to 12. Even with their losses, I think they did enough in the offseason to offset that. It's tough to lose a leader like Jason Kelsey, but they brought in Barkley to replace Swift. They brought in Huff, essentially a trade with the Jets.
Right.
Huff and Reddick.
And Huff is there. so
Gardner
that's good.
Johnson is back. Right. Devontae Parker was added as another option at receiver. They brought in Mekhi Becton, who never lived up to the hype, but maybe playing guard and being healthy could change things. And these are all guys on, low risk 1-year contracts by
Right.
and large. Saquon was a 3-year deal, and
Right.
Huff was too, but and Gardner Johnson, but all the other ones are 1-year deal. We've seen the Eagles do very well with that. And they got Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two DBs that everyone was really high on, and now
Yeah.
they're both in Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
we can't go too much. I actually don't want to go any longer. We'll
that's
dive.
good.
We'll start with Eagles and then do our recap and playoffs when we have our show in a month. Episode 406 will be Sunday, July 14th. I will be back in a week, maybe with someone, hopefully with someone, to do the second episode of Season 10 of the Bulldog Hour. But sorry we didn't quite get through everything we wanted to, but we will finish a whole bunch of stuff in 1 month before we're full on high school football. So, Justin, anything else to add from you?
No.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting someone or something. Birthday, anniversary. I'll just say Happy Father's Day to everyone watching and listening. I hope everyone had a great day. I hope everyone has a great week as well. And we will be back, like I said, in 1 month. So for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening to episode 405 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We'll see you in 1 month.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as the Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.